Wednesday, April 17th. I'm Rem.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, the Olympics, Tibet, and China.
Dun dun dun. Let's do this. So I'm pretty sure I've decided to just get a PC and put Windows on it to do video because...
At least for now.
Yeah, at least for now. Mostly because I realized you could buy a Windows license for Newegg, the System Builders Edition, for very cheap. I mean, Windows Vista Ultimate's usually like $300-something, but Newegg, the System Builders Edition's like $150. And the only limitation is that you can't then install it on a different motherboard. So as long as they don't change the motherboard, I'm all right. So as long as I don't install it, then the motherboard explodes and I need to RMA it, I'll be okay.
So, what are you going to do down the road when you want to upgrade?
What do you mean?
I don't know, if you want to use this computer at some point, move the motherboard.
I'm sure by the time I want to change the motherboard, I mean, I've had this motherboard in my current computer for 5 years. The computer before that, 5 years. Yeah. So I think that this one will last 5 years, maybe even longer. I mean, my current computer could keep going if I didn't need to do the video editing, right? So,
yep. Well, in the very least, I mean, I think this will get us through the first... I don't know, year or so of Geeknights video.
Yeah, I think it should.
Beyond that, we'll be fabulously famous and wealthy, and we'll just buy Avid.
Or something, but, like, I've complained about this before, and it's probably better for Monday, so I can keep it short. But, you know, building a computer, I realized two things. You know, I haven't built a computer in a long time, you know. I just sort of fiddled.
I kind of miss those days when I was a punk kid and I was building a computer, and I knew everything about consumer-level computer technology. Like,
yep.
I knew the difference between the different chips on the different video cards, and it was like, oh, man.
They're making it more difficult because there's a lot more, you know, mostly in the power supply department, where I have complained about that before many times. But I realize, though, they've made it more difficult. But at the same time, it's actually a better idea to do it than ever. I mean... You can get a computer, like, with a quad-core crazy fuck holy shit on Newegg and build it for, like, under $1,000.
Was that the technical?
Right? The computer that costs about $1,000 on Newegg costs, like, $2,500 from Dell. I mean, it's really getting sick. I bought two 500-gigabyte drives. That's a terabyte. For $200. I remember when we were talking about, oh my God, a terabyte is only $1,000. Maybe I'll get one.
I remember not too long ago thinking, oh my God, 500 megabyte hard drive?
So it's really getting crazy. I'm pretty close to making a decision, but what's funny is the CPU that I picked out is this morning in stock, now out of stock. So as soon as it comes back in stock, I'll probably make a move.
One thing that's actually really helping us is that because we got just like the cheapest camera that'll do the job for now, no HD, which means we don't need nearly as much power or space anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, we're going for a large audience here. We're not going for, you know, like HD super production stuff, you know.
Quantity, not quality.
Right, so we're doing YouTubes, you know, stuff like that. So the video just has to be better than everyone else's video, but it doesn't have to be HD.
The thing is, we've recorded something. We did this whole like test thing, and we didn't edit it together yet because there's nothing to edit with yet, but... All I can say is, if we even just put up what we recorded now on YouTube, it kind of frightens me how good it looks compared to a lot of YouTubes.
Yeah, though it's not. I wouldn't put it. I think it's definitely beta.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I don't even know if I want to bother saving it after we...
Well, we should save it, but I don't think we should...
I think the thing that's going to really help us out is that every YouTube, even if it's technically well done, very often has terrible audio.
Yeah, we're going to have good audios on our videos.
Because people record, but they just...
Half a video is audio.
They just use the microphone in the camera.
Yep.
And actually, I was looking at lavaliers and all that sort of thing, because we need those for our panels and things at conventions anyway. We really need a kind of walk-around-the-room wireless live mic solution because of the kinds of things we do. And it's time, I think, to purchase something like that.
Maybe. Also in the news... The New York Comic-Con starts tomorrow.
Actually, well, it kind of started today. There's the ICV2 conference that seems to be before every Read Exhibitions thing, and we actually had passes. We just didn't go because
I had to go to work, maybe?
I didn't want to take 2 days off of work. I think I'll go to it for the next New York Comic-Con, but we skipped it for the last New York Anime Festival, and we skipped it for this Comic-Con. So I feel like I got to go at some point.
Oh, you can go, but I'm gonna.
Cocktails.
Maybe.
That's why you go. There's cocktails.
That's fun.
Also, I imagine most of the press who go to those things are not quite like us. And I could foresee us asking the questions that everyone else in the room goes, my word, what sort of man is that? And what kind of publication does he work for? Ah.
And they'll take our badges away and kick us out.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
But anyway, we'll be hanging out there. You might see us, we're probably not going to spend too much time on the show floor.
Yeah, if you want to find us, either try to scam your way into the press room or look at the schedule and try to think, who would Rim and Scott care about to cover as press as opposed to actually pay attention to for fun?
Yeah,
and barring that, go find the Ninja Consultants in the podcast area.
Yeah, we might be in the podcast area quite a bit, even though we don't have a table there. We might be in Artist Alley buying arts because the Artist Alley is pretty big. I
don't know. I feel like I should not have my press badge on if I'm buying art.
I know, right? I think I'm going to, when I'm doing stuff that's not press, I'm going to sort of, hide the badge. Because, when you have the press badge out, you have to be, non-biased, non-partisan. You have to be, totally just
There is no smiling if you are press. Thank you very much, whoever it was who was sitting in our panel at the New York Anime Festival just talking to themselves and the whole time.
Yeah.
Those press guys. I forget who those press guys were.
I don't know. But you just sort of, when you're press, you have to be serious business doing journalism. So when you're not press, then you can be like, oh my God, your stuff is amazing, or you suck. That's what Engadget always complains, because Engadget, they take it seriously. They act like they're serious journalists, and they are serious journalists. And they go to see Steve Jobs, and all these people are clapping, and they're sitting there not clapping. And they're like, what the fuck, guys? Are you journalists or not? What the fuck?
Well, the answer is clearly not.
Yes, clearly. But so when we are acting as entertainers, bringing digital content to the masses, we look to Penny Arcade for our inspiration of how we should act. And when we are acting as press, which we don't do too often, we will look to Engadget because they're the best, so why not do what they do?
It's complicated because we've nominally covered, we've been press at pretty much every convention we've been to, but there's always, it's kind of like we've got the press badge or we got the press thing, but we also have, at the New York Anime Festival, we had the professional badge, which was the gold, Willy Wonka ticket.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's it's weird.
Except for trying to get in 5 minutes early and then.
Yeah, but they wouldn't. They seem to only let the most menial grunts in at that point early.
I know, I don't get it.
Of course, it was just that one guy, too.
Yeah, it was that one guy.
Oh, well. But anyway, what do you got in some news?
The last thing I want to say, that for your best chance of seeing us, you should go to the Kinokuniya bookstores in Bryant Park around 3 p.m. on Sunday.
Yes, you probably want to get there early.
Yeah. I mean, you'll probably see us at the convention, late on Friday, some early on Saturday, because late on Saturday I'm going over to Queens.
Yeah, but then I'll be there late on Saturday. We're going to kind of hand off.
All right. And then Sunday, you'll probably see us there a bit until, around 2, and then we're going to go over to Kinokuniya's.
We'll probably be at Kinokuniya well before 2 to set up.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if we have to set up anything.
We got to be there. This is the biggest kind of non-anime con outside in the real world thing we've done yet. I mean, we do gigantic panels and these big main event style things, but they're always in the anime con for the anime fans or at the gaming con where no one goes to panels ever.
Yep. Anyway.
So now we're in the real world.
That's still your best chance of seeing us, so that's where you should go.
Yeah. Plus, I think it'd be funny if you guys all bother the Ninja Consultants looking for us.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. Everyone, go to the Ninja Consultants table in the podcast alley.
And just ask for us.
Also, do the same thing at the Comic Geek Speak table. Just ask, hey, have you seen Rim and Scott of Geeknights? We're looking for them. Just bother all the podcasters asking where we are.
In fact, bother everyone at the con. Hey, where are the Geeknights guys? I heard the Geeknights guys are here. Oh my God, have you seen the Geeknights guys?
That would be awesome.
That would be really funny.
And we should get people to do that at every convention. Just go around asking people where we are.
Are we going to get to the point where instead of buying ads, we pay street money like the candidates do in
But think about it. That's such a clever form. I wonder if any marketeer has ever thought of it. I mean, they've thought of some clever stuff people who are did internet stores, they have boxes with their company's name on it, and they'll just give them to a doorman and have them sit on the curb, to make it look like people are buying their shit, and it's sort of like buying an ad on the street. They'll have people on the subway like discuss their products loudly. They've tried that.
There was a big one I remember because I had a bar when this happened once where they would hire people to sit there, like there used to be a very beautiful woman, and order kind of conspicuously very specific alcohols and then talk about them and flirt with people and get them to buy. And it was the dumbest thing. And I only knew because like a week or two after I was at this bar, I saw a thing on the internet about these people, and it was the same freaking alcohol.
Yeah, but yeah, go around the New York Comic Con.
I pointedly did not say what kind of alcohol
And
it was.
even if you know where we are, ask people who are complete strangers and don't know us where we are.
If nothing else, you'll be really annoying.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask someone who doesn't know Geeknights, shouldn't like just ask like a random person at Artist Alley, like, hey, have you seen the Geeknights guys anywhere? They'd be like, who are you talking about? But it sort of gives the impression that like you think they should know.
It gives the impression that we have listeners.
Right. Well, no, it's like that way that person is like, huh. They see that there's a person asking them where someone is. Thus, this complete stranger must expect this other complete stranger to know these people. So it's sort of like, if you asked, do you know where Stan Lee is? Well, even if they didn't, he's such a famous person. So it's sort of like you're pretending that we're famous. Thus, it causes them to think, those guys must be famous.
Bonus points if you go to con people and ask why the hell Geeknights isn't doing panels, even though it's actually, they kind of asked us to. We just didn't because we didn't expect to be going.
Yeah, there's also like 200 bajillion panels.
Yeah. Plus, I guess we actually had some panels that we could have done, but we kind of want to test those first, so you'll be seeing all our new panels at like
I just think the most humorous thing about this whole convention for us is that I basically wasn't gonna go. I was gonna go maybe just like last year for a few hours on Friday and then leave.
And
right?
then Tokyo FM was like, "Hey,
then
do the CMR thing."
like usually we plan conventions. Like we're planning Otakon now. It's months away.
No, we planned Otakon like 4 months ago.
Right, but New York Comic Con, like weeks before we get thrown into it, and it's like I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not gonna go. Hey, could you go for this one event?
I feel
all
like
right,
we should
I'll
just
go for this one event. Hey, by the way, we really want you to be press. Here's your press badges. All right, I'll go Saturday. Hey, there's this awesome event Friday. Will you? God damn it.
I feel like we should just not try for conventions anymore because they'll just come to us now. Like we'll just be thrown into them. All right.
Anyway,
let's do news.
So, what do you got in the news?
Oh well. This is more of a Monday news, but I'm just full of tech today.
I only pushed you into the news because I forgot what my news was and I had to reopen Firefox, but then I remembered that it's about Logiciel.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, here Microsoft patented something, and here's the article, the Engadget article about the patent. And this is an example of patents that don't suck. Like, this is a worthwhile patent, and if this product comes to be, I can see myself buying it. What it is a computer mouse, right? But the mouse, like, wraps around your hand, like across your palm and over the back of your hand. And there's a button on the side, like, under your thumb, right? So, like, if you made a fist, you'd be gripping it. And it'd be like having a joystick in your hand that's not attached to anything. But if you open your hand, you can type on the keyboard. So when you turn your hand sideways, it sort of activates the mouse, and then you sort of move your hand around like a joystick and push the button to click on things. But then you turn your hand sideways again, and you type it on the keyboard. So you don't have to move your hand back and forth to the mouse and the keyboard. You just sort of pick your hand up, click on things, and then put your hand down and type. And for someone who's, for a normal person, this isn't really too useful. But for someone who sits at the computer for a long time, this is like, oh my God, I hope this is real, and I hope it works as well as it looks like it's going to work. And I hope it's as comfortable as I could imagine it being, because goddamn.
It's tricky, because this is one of those things where you'll use it, and you'll either go, oh man, it's perfect, or it'll just be completely useless and suck in every way.
Yeah.
Like the Mouse Man back in the day.
Yeah, I'm not having a high expectation.
Or the Cyberman mouse.
Yeah. I don't have a high expectation for it. I have a high hope for it, because I see the potential here, but yet, as we know, people are very bad at fulfilling potential. Nintendo.
So was that your news?
Yeah, that's my news.
That's it?
Yeah.
All right.
When you see it, you go, oh, it's pretty cool.
I have something much... Vive le roi! Vive le roi!
Stop doing that.
I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, you
see, the French are up in an uproar over something involving the language. Okay, I shouldn't do that. It's bad. I'm making fun of the French, like, on a day-to-day basis, more so now than I have in the rest of my life combined. And it's
They're
surprising.
really easy targets.
But not really, because I know a lot about French history. I like France. I like the language. I studied it. I speak it badly, but I like it.
Oh, you like the guillotine, huh?
No, not so much
You
the
like the
guillotine.
escargot and the chablis?
Escargot and a chablis.
That's right.
But basically, the French, if nothing else, I think Eddie Izzard said it best. The French are, very prickling, just very French, and they really care about their language. But when I say
Well, some of them do.
when I say they, I mean the proper French. You see, France has had this long-standing issue where there are people in the government and people in the nation who feel that the purity of the French language must be maintained at all costs, and the rest of the people in France pretty much just speak English. What they do is they call it franglais. There's a couple different words. I don't know what they call it now, but that's what they called it like 5 years ago. But they'll speak French kinda, but they'll kind of slip in and out of English, and they use mostly English words for technology things like most of the world does, because who's going to say l'ordinateur when you can say computer or PC or like everyone else in the world, except maybe Japan, but they say persicom, which is close enough. But that's not my news. Oh, yes, that's my news. The French are prickly about their language.
The
The news is that
Russians like vodka.
Eurovision is coming.
Oh, man. Awesome music.
We somewhat recently found out about Eurovision, and we did
I knew about it like on one level, but I recently learned about it on a deeper level.
we knew about it in the same way that like there was a guy named Napoleon, but we didn't know the in-depth. We didn't really understand it until that string of things of the day a while ago.
Yep, that's right.
Well, the current offering from France for the upcoming Eurovision happens to be in English. And good God, have people in France lost their shit over this.
Oh, come on. Every other country is like putting English songs up.
Marc Favre Deschalon, who heads a group that is dedicated to, quote, defending French against the growing use of English, very specifically, says a song represents the soul of a country. It appears logical that the song representing France should be a French song sung in French. No? He goes on to denounce uniformity and hegemony of the English language in the world today. And this article is full of gems of quotations. They're calling this France's newest Waterloo.
Wait, no classe en français.
But, I should probably... The reason I've been making fun of the French so much is that one of my coworkers, I'm good friends with at work, is French. He moved here from France. He's a smart guy. He's the same level as me in the company. Like, we're coworkers, straight up. He has seniority over me because he's been there longer, and he knows a lot more about Postgres and Perl than I do.
He knows more about France.
Yeah, but...
and French.
My work is very... We have one vegan guy, and they torment him mercilessly. And we have one French guy. They torment him mercilessly. I think you see where they're going with this. They haven't figured out what to make fun of me for, but they'll
being
get
nerdy?
it. I'm not that nerdy, though. Believe me. They're starting to make fun of me for game theory, but that's another story. People come up to me like, time to maximize our utility for the... I'm like, shut up. But anyway...
Wait, no class. I make the same Simpsons joke again.
Now,
Oh.
I just find this very interesting in France here, because on one hand, people, like the government and everyone, they want France to remain French, and French to remain French. It's the language that people should speak, and France shouldn't go away. Well, French shouldn't go away. But it seems like because the media and the people chose this song, that the majority of people in France don't care, and just kind of speak English anyway.
Yep. Is that it?
That's all I got.
All right.
Things of the day. This is kind of old. You might have seen it if you peruse Collègue Humor on a regular basis.
Collègue Humor?
But this is very high quality.
I'm pretty sure this might have been a thing of the day in the past, but it might not have been.
I couldn't find it. And
I think we might have said this is going to be a thing of the day and then forgot.
Probably. We've done that a lot. We'll see something, we're like, man, this is too good. Let's save it. And then we just forget completely.
I wasn't going to save it. I was going to use it right away, but
something else must have come up.
I don't know if we actually used it or not.
I don't think so. But anyway.
I couldn't find it by searching.
This is a stop motion animation involving food, a food fight, if you will. And I don't think I need to say what it entails because you'll figure it out pretty quick. But it covers about 40 years of history.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how much you know about history, you'll be able to figure out what's what. And actually, I think that basically what you could do is you could show this scene by scene to a person and say, any person, because there's no language, right? And say, what part of history was that? What is that representing? And if they can't tell you, then you could judge how much someone knows of history by how many of them they get right.
I mean, you could debate whether or not, what specifically the falafel represents, but in a general sense, it's pretty obvious what the falafel represent.
I know what the falafels represent.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. But, between the two different kinds of sushi, or... Yeah. Anyway, This is pretty funny and poignant and cool and well done.
Right.
My hat is off. It also looks like it was made in the 70s.
So I don't want to let this become the whole episode, so we're not going to let this happen. This is not the whole episode, although we could do a whole episode on this.
I don't know what Scott's doing, so I'm ready to make it a whole episode. I'm going to ravel.
No, there's a lady, and there's a hubbub on the internet. I think it was a lady anyway. And basically, okay. So she was at Bloomingdale's, right? The original Bloomingdale's, right? And she had her 9-year-old kid with her, right? And she lived somewhere, you had to take the subway and then a bus.
Oh, I know what this is.
To get to her house, right? So her kid was 9 years old. And, she's like, you know what? And she gave him a Metro card, right? And some money. And, she knows where the address is. And she says, all right, I'm going. You find your own way home. And, of course, the kid got home. And, of course, half of the people in the world, I don't know if it's half, but there's one contingent, and the contingent's like, you're crazy. You should be in jail, letting your 9-year-old kid alone in the city. Oh, my God.
Thing is,
and the other half of the people are like, yeah, woo.
The funny thing is, I actually see a lot of young kids just, taking the bus or taking the subway. And
well, yeah, I know. But, really, I'm obviously, all I'll say for now is I'm definitely on the side of letting the kids roam free. I mean,
well,
I'm not going to start the argument. Basically, if you want to know why I'm on this side, watch The Sandlot.
I think the base issue, again, we won't make this whole show, but to kind of put it into a very clear, the issue that always comes up with us is that kids want to have fun because that's what kids do. And it seems like in a lot of places, adults will systematically take away or downplay every possible safe or interesting or harmless thing that kids could do. And then they wonder why the kids start doing the harmful things. It's like, all right, I'm a kid and I want to go ride my bikes and hang out with my friends. Oh, can't go outside by myself unsupervised. All right, I want to skateboard. Oh, it's dangerous and there's laws against it in a lot of places. Fine, I'll go to the arcade. No more arcades. Go to the roller rink. Shut down because we don't want kids going there. All right. I'll play video games. Video games make you a murderer.
Stop sitting in the house all the time playing video games.
But don't go outside.
Yeah, don't go outside alone and roam.
Don't smoke that weed. And you know what they end up on? They're huffing paint. Like Darth Vader in that anime we watched yesterday.
Yep. Or drinking cough syrup.
what was Wormy at RIT? He was an interesting
He's all about the
fellow.
tussin.
He made a parody video. I got to see if it's online. If not, I feel like we should just remake it. There used to be these anti-drug commercials. They were like, baseball, my anti-drug. Or like, getting high on homework. That's my anti-drug. These kind of... And he made one, and he's standing there all shabby looking with a bottle of NyQuil. And he's like, NyQuil, my anti-drug. And he proceeds to chug it and wig out.
Right. To prevent this from becoming the episode, I will sum this up with one thing. Two things, actually. Number one, I think really what the root problem is that the parents are actually very selfish. They don't, there's obviously with anything you let your kid do, there's a risk of danger and perhaps some reward of fun or something else. And the parents are selfish. They don't ever want to worry about their kid. Thus, even if the risk of something hurting their kid is incredibly small, they selfishly remove all risk from anything happening to their kid
Man,
so that
when I
they
was-
never have to worry.
But I mean, when I was a kid, I roamed pretty much completely free, except when we lived in downtown Detroit.
I
But
roam pretty freely. But anyway,
If you live in downtown Detroit, you shouldn't be roaming too free.
so I'm linking you to this new blog, freerangekids.wordpress.com.
That title, while I get what they're doing, I see what they did there. All I can think is free range cattle.
Right. And that the tagline is "Let's give our children the freedom we had!" exclamation point. So I'm linking you to this blog, and
That's one frightening
you
thing.
should pay attention to this blog.
How come? All right, I was in high school a long time ago. God, like a decade ago. And you know what? When I got out of high school,
Stop! You're turning the whole episode into this.
I got to say this. I remember thinking back and now, and I go, wow, all the freedoms I had in high school are gone, and high school sucks. But then I remember when I was in high school, my parents said to me, wow, all the freedoms we had when we were in high school are gone. It must suck for you to be in high school.
There are many causes. I think the number one cause is the media. Okay, let's go on with the episode.
Of course, I'm glad there's no more smoking deck in my high school.
Me too.
So what is the episode?
Some things were good to get rid of.
This is more of a hot button issue for Scott, but I have a much more academic position on it.
Yeah. I don't know. What was I forget what was the topic.
You really forget? You wanted to do it. I was all fine with doing Seinfeld, or what if I was a spaceship?
Yeah, what was it? I forget.
The Olympics?
Oh, right.
Perchance?
Yeah, Olympics. All right.
You want to summarize, or shall I?
Well, we should talk about the Olympics first, and then obviously
All right,
we're
so-
going to talk about the current events Olympics.
So a long time ago, the Kingdom of Tibet.
Well, no, a long time ago, Athens, Greek, discuses, tracks and fields, awesomeness.
All right, Scott, I'm curious. What is the continuity? I'm curious how much you know about the Olympics between the ancient Greek Olympics and the modern Olympics, because there's no direct continuity.
No, there
here.
isn't. Basically,
So when did the modern Olympics movement start? Ish. I don't need a year. I want like I'd have like a double decade. I'd be fine with. Maybe even a century.
it's definitely the 20th century.
Okay.
It was probably in the 30s, maybe the 40s.
France had a lot to do with it.
Yeah,
It was definitely before World War II.
I know. It was
because
before World War II. That's why I was saying 30s and 40s.
I got to say, my favorite thing is so many people, when all this hubbub began, were saying things, and I saw there's a picture on Fark of a guy holding up a sign that says, "Would we have gone to the Olympics with Hitler?" And it's like,
No, we didn't go to the Olympics with Hitler, in fact.
well, we did, and we won.
Oh, no. That's right. Or did Hitler not go to the Olympics with us?
We went to the Olympics, Nazi Germany, and we won. Well, it's actually more complicated than that, but anyway, continue.
Oh, that's right. The Russians, we didn't go at all.
Yes.
And they didn't go with us either 4
Yes.
years later.
The Soviets was the problem, not so much the Nazis.
But anyway, I'm not going to teach you the history of the Olympics because, as we have just demonstrated, I am not a scholar on that. I am more of
Not that I am either. I was just in the position of being the accuser, thus being immune to all inquiry.
Yeah, what year did it start, Rim?
Odd 8.
Yeah. Oh, was it?
Anyway, continue.
Did you just look that up?
Just continue.
Anyway, I knew it was the early 20th century. But anyway, the Olympics on paper, I feel, are really awesome in that you basically have a competition it's a friendly competition though, not a horrible war. It's a competition of greatness, and it's basically humans showing what humans have achieved. In terms of the human body, and the whole world getting together and sort of being like, yeah, people are awesome all at once. And that's what the Olympics is on paper. And on paper, I like the Olympics a lot, even though from event to event, I find some events more qualified than others. For example, a really good Olympic event, the javelin. A really bad Olympic event, curling.
What's wrong with curling?
Shush.
Well, you always bring up, we'll have a nice conversation, we'll have a nice dinner, and then out of the blue, you'll disparage curling.
That's right.
Curling's fine.
Curling is my...
The only problem with curling is the fact that I remember a few years ago, there seemed to be this kind of concentrated media effort to make curling popular. And I saw this, like they were trying to get people to care about curling. It obviously failed, and I haven't seen him try it since. But ever since then, Scott has just bitched and moaned about curling.
I never liked curling.
Maybe it's because, I don't know, in Michigan, like, we'd curl sometimes. It's not that bad of a sport. It's
They
kinda
should
fun.
replace curling with candlestick bowling. That's all I'm going to say.
I think they're equivalent sports.
No, I think candlestick
Have
bowling
you
is...
ever been candlestick bowling?
No.
Have you ever been curling?
Yes.
When?
One time.
When?
My friend's dad was all curling.
What
And one time I happened to be there.
What position did you play?
I threw the little rock. One time.
How big was the rock?
Big and heavy.
Uh-huh.
Real big.
Anyway.
Bigger than I could pick up.
So the Olympics.
I just sort of had to shuffle it out there.
Which were begun in 1894.
Yep. Oh, really? Wow. Damn.
Yes.
I was off by 6 years. So on paper, I like the Olympics. The thing
6
is...
years.
Right.
Anyway, go on.
Hey.
You were like, yeah, the 20s, the 30s?
No, but I mean, I guess the century, right? Anyway, on paper, they're awesome, right? In reality, in recent years at least, they're not as awesome because basically they've, in addition to the on paper parts of the Olympics, they have sort of added this, just like every other sport in the world, the consumerism, the marketing, the sponsorship, the money, the corporatism,
And it
really
of just violent aggression that the International Olympic Committee has taken toward the trademarks, the copyrights, the broadcast rights of something that nominally should be available to all the people of the world.
Yeah, if anything, right, if you look at the spirit of the Olympics, you have to say this is something that everyone in the world should be able to take part in at no cost. Just, sort of a coming together of all the peoples and saying, people are awesome. Hooray.
But instead, the Olympics are this, I remember stories of like Olympic diners, because Greece and such, run by Greek people, being shut down by the Olympics as they move into a given city because they're so crazy about their copyrights and their trademarks and their whatchamacallits.
Yeah, it's really not cool.
Also, the fact that, I'll admit I have a selfish reason, in the U.S., we get completely gypped on the Olympics. We don't get to see any Olympic sport that I care about at all.
If you have a satellite dish, I'm pretty sure you can watch all the cool events.
Yes, if I have
but
a
if you
satellite dish.
if you don't have a dish, you're pretty much on network TV. You're gonna unless you watch like during the day, you can see some cool events maybe. But mostly, you're just gonna see the U.S. people participating, especially the ones who are probably gonna win.
And even then,
and
only
you're gonna
in the
see
sports that they think Americans care about.
Yeah, or the sports that they think they can market and make popular. Or in the championship rounds. You're never going to see, like, the low-end rounds, like, the first heats or, like, the qualifiers or anything like that. You're only going to see, like, the big ones. Like, whoever wins this gets a gold medal. Oh, my God. Anyway, the second thing about the Olympics is that if you really think about it, and think about it hard, the Olympics is the only, even though it's not, following its spirit, it's the only world stage, really. I mean, if you wanted to somehow get a message out to the whole civilized world, every continent, every country, right? Pretty much every country. Even if you make a speech at the UN or something, it's not going to get out there unless it's so...
Even if, I don't think anyone out there could even name anyone who works for the UN.
Right. It's really, really hard to get a message out to the whole world. But the Olympics, being as they are sport, they are circuses. I mean, people pay attention to circuses a lot more than they do to, politics and things and war. So if you can...
and bread.
Right. So if you can get your message attached to the world circus, which is pretty much what the Olympics is, the only world circus, that is a way to get your message out to the whole world that is more effective than perhaps anything. And thus, throughout the history of the Olympics, many protests and many world issues have attached themselves to the Olympics. And I don't think that, think about, the Black Panthers, Russia not going to us not going to Russia, Nazi Germany, the killing of the Israelis. Remember that? The terrorism going on?
I remember that in very clear detail because I wrote a paper on it in high school.
Right. All these things have attached themselves to the Olympics. And while many of them are terrible and some of them are good, I think that that is also part of the spirit of the new Olympics, not so much, the Athenian Olympics, but the new Olympics. I think that, using it as a stage to get a message to the world is also, part of what the Olympics is. Now, that brings us to today, where we have the shit going down in Tibet. Basically...
that was a very eloquent way of putting that.
I think that's the only way to put it.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, the Tibet issue is not, shall we say, new.
No, it
This
is
has been
quite.
going on for some time. Now,
Also, the Chinese human rights issue in general
Now-
is not new. In fact, it's as old as Mao.
now there. It's all about Chiang Kai-shek.
But unlike Mao, it is not dead.
Ruffle Mao.
Yes, only without the rofling.
I think we should preface all of this by I don't really want to talk about the history of China. I don't want
Nope.
to talk about the history of the Olympics. I don't want to talk about the history of Tibet. I don't want to talk about because there's also a really important conflated issue that on one hand, the human rights issues have always been kind of a nagging sore point with a lot of people in the world. At least in the West, because as we discovered, there were violent protests everywhere the torch went until it got to South America, and then no one gave a shit, and there was no protests at all.
Yep. I mean, I'm gonna say right now, human rights in China is ass. China needs to clean that shit up.
The thing is, I have all these other things to talk about.
Right,
Like
yep.
China and India are in a similar boat, but yet they're handling everything completely differently.
Yep.
And yet also, there's the conflated issue of that a lot of people in America and Europe in particular, while nominally they're against the human rights violations, and while popularly they're against the oppression of Tibet, because the Tibet thing is a very popular issue to be behind, whether or not, I mean, I'm behind it too, but a lot of people, I think, are behind it because it's a very easy thing to be for.
Well, I mean, it's sort of it's one of those things where it's so outrageously one person is wrong and one person is right,
Yep.
or so it seems.
But-
And the fact that the person who's right is not winning is just like, come on.
But there's this conflating factor that a lot of people in America in particular are very paranoid about China anyway, economically, especially because the American economy, if you haven't noticed, is in the pooper. To use a Dave and Joelism.
Relatively speaking.
Well, it depends on where you live, but the dollar is falling like a rock, and China has actually been playing hardball in that their currency is undervalued compared to the dollar, and there's all this shady stuff going on. And I think a lot of people who say they're for Tibet and against the human rights violations and are jumping on the Olympics bandwagon actually are just xenophobic about China's emergence as an economic power. And this is kind
Maybe.
I'm not saying the majority, but I know there are people like this.
I'm sure there are some people like that, but I think the majority of
Because
people.
the level of misinformation I've seen from a lot of the pictures of people with protest signs at
Nah.
the torch.
Yeah.
But let's get.
I think what it is that, Tibet has always been an issue that people all knew about, right? And they were all on the side of Tibet, or at least, but there was never really an opportunity to do something about it until the Olympics happened to be scheduled in Beijing. And now, if they would have acted way long ago, like when the Olympics were first announced to be there, then they could have just moved them. But now it's sort of like, haha, it's too late. Let's go.
They could have always moved him to Peking.
Yep.
No, because at my work, someone made fun of someone else by making a joke like that because the other person
I can see how that could be a funny joke. But
the other person didn't know, and the person making the joke made it with the look in the eyes that I've seen this look before of I know that no one gets this joke from me, and they have the chortle of self-satisfaction, but I got it. So I look him in the eye and I chortle, and then we start laughing out loud. And the third person is like, "What? What the hell's wrong with you? What?"
I got the joke on a delay because I didn't see it coming. You snuck it in there a little quickly. But, yeah,
Because I've been thinking about it all day. It was really funny.
it's a good joke, yeah.
So I totally stole it. I don't think I made that up.
It's like the Olympics are in Beijing, and there's all these protests. Oh, why don't they just move them to Peking?
Yes, that Scott was the joke.
I know, right?
But I also don't want to well, I guess I kind of have to talk, but the way I look at this, there's a lot of ways to look at the Olympic protests. I would be against the protests of the Olympics on the grounds that the Olympics are supposed to be, in theory, this worldwide coming together despite everything. Like nothing should stop the Olympics except the Cold War because we were dumbasses, but I digress. But at the same time, the Olympics are so corporate and so money driven that I have almost no sympathy for the IOC or the Olympics at all. And the only people I have any sympathy at all for are the athletes.
Right. I think really, I'm totally,
And not even the athletes in the West, only the athletes from those countries where the Olympics are a big deal. Like the guy from the poor country in like in the Serbia area or in Africa who trains his whole life and he's the only person from his country representing them in one race and he gets like the bronze. That's a big deal to those people. But at the same time,
I feel bad though also. I mean, think about it. The Olympics is every 4 years. So if you participate in one of those sports, you have maybe 2-3 tries. 3 tries is crazy, you know?
Yeah, because remember, most of these
to win
sports,
a gold medal, because after that, you're going to be too old.
Most of these sports, too, have no other serious outlet other than the Olympics. I mean, there's sports like hockey where the NHL is where all the real hockey players end up.
Well,
or
I think
Canada.
I think the only, yeah. But, I mean, the gold medal in hockey is pretty meaningful.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that a lot of other sports, there aren't these gigantic places to prove that you're the best where people will notice.
They do, but yeah, no one notices. Like they're like, you know, the World Cup or whatever, but they're like,
well, that's not a good example because the whole world notices that, just not us.
Yeah, pretty much. But you know, yeah. Anyway, so like I feel bad. Like, look, there's a guy in the U.S. right who may be like the greatest swimmer ever, and he's going to the Olympics this year, and he could win. He could prove that he's the best swimmer ever. But if the Olympics don't happen or in some way like damaged, he's not going to have another shot to prove he's the best swimmer ever. I mean, imagine if like, you know, for some reason, like we know Tiger Woods is probably the best golfer ever, but he's on his way to winning more than anyone else ever. What if suddenly like, you know, the PGA is like canceled because of, you know, people attacking it for some, something the PGA didn't do? Then that's like, you know, I don't feel bad for maybe the PGA, but I feel bad for Tiger Woods.
Yeah, because then at the same time, it's like, yeah, the IOC, they did agree to put it in Beijing.
Right,
so,
they did, I know.
It's not like they couldn't have foreseen this happening.
So it's like if athletes are like whipping out Tibetan flags, totally awesome.
I gotta
admit, people running with the torch, whipping out Tibetan flags,
which has already happened,
totally awesome, right? People trying to put out the torch, that goes a little over the line for me because you're like assaulting this person who just wants to carry a torch. People standing near the torch protesting, totally awesome.
To me,
people going to the Olympics
always bothers me
and protesting.
Whenever there's a real issue that you could really, like there's an easy way to stand behind it and protest or anything, it seems like the majority of people protest in this really shoddy, just making themselves almost look bad way. To me, the best protest they could have had is if no one attacked the torch and there weren't these giant yelling mobs. If there was just
no one showed up,
or just a silent crowd turns its back as they present the torch.
See, there you go.
But no one does anything cool like that. No one really protests.
Well, because to do something complicated with the larger group you have, it becomes more and more difficult. That's why you can get 1 million people to chant like kill, 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 but or free Tibet, but
it's a lot harder to get them to chant.
It's a lot harder
than the violence inherent in the system. Come and see the violence inherent in the system.
And it's even harder to get them to say e to the x, dx, dy,
1.149 secant cosine tangent sine. Yeah, anyway.
Pi times 3. Anyway.
Let's go. We totally stole that from MIT.
Yeah.
I love RIT.
Yep. So the thing is, this whole thing, and totally for free in Tibet, I really don't know why China tries to hold on to Tibet. It just makes them look bad. It doesn't get them much. But really, some of the protesters, I feel like there is the spirit of the Olympics and the athletes participating in the Olympics
but I feel
have
like,
been made a victim, perhaps unnecessarily.
But at the same time, I feel as though the spirit of the Olympics has been all but dead for a long, long time.
Yeah, and I think what they're sort of doing is they're sort of like going and kicking the tombstone over it, and I'm like,
Plus, at the same
don't
time,
make me feel
there is
worse.
kind of the idea. I'm not advocating anything, but the idea that if something is morally opposed to you, it's almost like you look at cultural relativism. Like, if there's something bad going on, why should you respect someone like, all right, let's not talk about this for today and just chill, and I'll ignore the bad thing, and then we'll talk about the bad thing again tomorrow. Like, I feel like the freedom of speech always trumps.
Well, I think the reason that in the end I have to go to the protester side, even though I feel the Olympics the spirit of the Olympics anyway is an unfair victim, is that if you told me that sacrificing the Olympics would free Tibet, as make the Olympics a martyr, Tibet is free, I'd say, okay.
Yep.
That's a good trade there. That's fair.
Plus,
it's
just, I don't know, I always err on freedom of speech anyway.
Yeah.
And regardless of all of it, I feel as though
Freedom of speech, ironically enough, something China doesn't have.
I also feel as though China brought this on themselves, not for any reason other than the fact that when this started, the Olympic protest, all China would have had to do is open up a dialogue and say something like, wow, the world has risen up and said, we are going to let's let the Olympics happen for the athletes, and then we are going to seriously sit down and solve Tibet so that everyone can be happy.
Yeah,
but instead, China said they said these stupid statements, and China.
The only statement they said, like 100 statements.
They said like it hurt the feelings of the Chinese and won China. And that's all they said.
The only non-stupid thing they said was, "You're holding the Olympics hostage," which is true.
But at the same time, like Scott said, if holding the Olympics hostage, this is for people who have been so disempowered for so long. I mean, no matter how angry you were about Tibet, there was nothing you could do. Suddenly, there's a very easy way to do a lot of harm to China in terms of getting something accomplished.
The thing that really bothers me the most about China in general is that a lot of the things China does, they do a lot of smart things for themselves, right? But they do a lot of stupid things for like these seemingly like reasons of pride. Like, why are you still acting that way with Taiwan? Like, just give it up and you'll be fine. Just say, okay, we don't care. Go be your own country. It wouldn't hurt China. It would help them a lot to say that. But the only reason they don't is, some nationalistic, crazy reasons.
The only smart thing they've ever done in that regard was with Hong Kong. How they largely left Hong Kong alone.
Yeah. If they would have just let Tibet go, it wouldn't hurt China, really,
in fact,
their pride.
This. Imagine if I were China, let's say, all right, if I were the premier of China, what I would have done is I would have made a big deal like we're going to talk about this. And I would step forward and say, I've heard blah, blah, blah. It's time for all of this to end. This will be the Tibetan Olympics, and we will end it with the turning over of civil authority to the nation of Tibet.
Yeah.
Like, I would have made a big deal about it.
And then
that would have turned China into the amount of goodwill that would have generated for
and
China,
you wouldn't and if you did
Olympics,
that, you wouldn't even have to clean up your civil rights, even though I still think you should.
No, but China, the Olympics then would have become like this historical Olympics, like times a billion. And China would stand to gain nothing but, I don't know, everything by doing something like that. But instead, you've hurt the feelings of China and won China, and don't you dare hurt the Olympics.
Yeah.
I don't know why China I don't even know what kind of accent that was.
I don't know either.
Don't you dare hurt the Olympics. I'm going to be very angry.
I mean, and it's like, China has all their, non-free speech, and human rights violations and such. That sort of made sense when you're like an evil communist dictatorship, right? And you sort of, if the people know too much and they escape your propaganda, then it'll fall apart. Sort of like, what happened in Russia or what could happen in North Korea, which is even worse.
Someday.
Yeah,
Man,
someday.
North Korea is one of the only things in the world that actually frightens me.
It's pretty scary.
Not because I'm afraid of their WMDs or anything, because I know they don't have anything.
Right.
Just because the idea that a 1984-ish Orwellian state exists, it's right there. There are people stuck in it who probably don't know a lot about the outside world, and to date, no one's really been able to do anything about it.
But China doesn't need to be doing these human rights violations today. I mean, the internet's there. They have a great firewall, but it's not helping. They could just give it up and it wouldn't ruin anything.
Yeah, it's tricky, but that China is a
They would be just fine. They'd be better off letting it go.
For another show, because frankly, it's Thursday. I'm really hungry, and we have a reason to celebrate, so I kind of want to get a whole bunch of food. Unrelated, we got some good news in between the front bit and the second bit of the show.
Yeah.
So let's just eat?
Yes.
Okay. See you at the New York Comic Con. Don't forget to bother the Ninja Consultants.
Oh, God.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.